In our lives, we often find ourselves confronted with profound questions, questions that have plagued humanity for millennia. What is the meaning of life? Why are we born? And why must we die? Can there be purpose in a world that seems so chaotic and transient? These questions are not easy to answer, but through deep reflection and teachings that have transcended time, we may come to understand that the answer is not what we expect. This story begins on a quiet night, much like any other, yet it is unlike any other in its potential to change lives. Our journey takes us to the world of a young monk, an heir to a great kingdom, and a woman who has lost everything. Both of them are searching for answers, answers that have been elusive in their lives, and both find themselves drawn to the wisdom of one man, the Buddha. The struggle to understand life's meaning. The night was serene as the wind whispered through the trees. Yet, beneath this calm, two souls were in turmoil. One, a young prince who had lost his beloved father to disease, and the other, a woman named Devi, who had recently lost her husband and young child in an accident. Their hearts, burdened with grief, could not escape the overwhelming sorrow of death. Why must life be so fleeting, they wondered. Why must all we hold dear be taken away from us? The young prince sought guidance from his teacher, an elder monk who had spent his life studying the ways of the Buddha. The monk, knowing the depth of the prince's suffering, led him and Devi to the Buddha. As they walked toward the monastery, the air grew heavier, thick with their unspoken pain. But in the distance, the flicker of light from the Buddha's serene meditation illuminated the way. The Buddha's wisdom on life, death, and meaning. As they approached the Buddha, his figure sat in stillness, an embodiment of peace. The moonlight bathed him in its soft glow, and the monk's voice echoed softly in the night air. The questions you ask are universal. We have all wondered why life unfolds the way it does. But there is someone among us who can answer your deepest questions. Let us go and listen. The Buddha opened his eyes slowly, his gaze piercing through the sorrow and doubt that clouded the hearts of the prince and Devi. Without a word, he raised his hand and held a single leaf, allowing it to catch the moonlight. Look at this leaf, the Buddha said. What do you see? Do you see the life within it? Do you see its growth, its wilting, and its inevitable fall? The prince and Devi gazed at the leaf, watching as it fluttered gently in the night air. The Buddha continued, "In this leaf is the truth of life. It is born, it lives, and it dies. But the leaf does not question its purpose. It simply exists. Life, too, is like this. Neither birth nor death holds intrinsic meaning. They are simply natural processes, bound by the laws of the universe." The illusion of meaning in life. The young prince, confused by the Buddha's words, asked, "But surely, there must be a reason for our suffering, a reason for our lives to unfold as they do? Can you tell us what that reason is?" The Buddha closed his eyes, as if contemplating a truth far beyond the scope of time. He then spoke quietly, "The reason for our suffering is that we seek meaning in things that are fleeting, things that change with time. We try to attach purpose to every experience, to every loss, to every moment. But the truth is, life itself is not bound by meaning. It simply is. It is through our own hearts, our own minds, that we give life meaning." The prince and Devi were silent, grappling with the Buddha's words. For a moment, the weight of their grief seemed to lift, but confusion still clouded their minds. "But how can we find peace if life has no meaning?" Devi asked softly. "The path to true freedom." The Buddha smiled, his face softening with compassion. "The key to peace, to true freedom, is compassion. Compassion is the force that transforms a meaningless world into a meaningful one. When you show love and kindness, not just to others, but to yourself, you awaken the power of the universe that flows through all things." Devi looked at the Buddha, Her eyes filled with uncertainty, yet a flicker of hope began to shine through. But how do we cultivate this compassion? She asked. The Buddha's voice was calm, yet filled with the profound wisdom that had guided him for so many years. Start by looking within. Look at the people around you and wish for their happiness. Look at the world and wish for peace. By cultivating compassion in your heart, you bring peace to your mind and soul. You begin to realize that you are not alone in your suffering. The world is full of others who share in your pain, and together, you can transform it. Living a life of purpose. As the night drew to a close, the prince and Devi sat quietly, reflecting on the Buddha's teachings. The sky, once dark and filled with questions, began to lighten with the coming dawn. In the quiet stillness, a new understanding began to bloom in their hearts. Life, they realized, was not about finding an external purpose. It was about finding meaning in the present moment, through compassion, kindness, and love. In every action, in every thought, they could choose to imbue the world with meaning, creating a life that was rich with love and peace. Even when life seems meaningless, the Buddha continued, we have the power to choose how we respond. We can choose to live with compassion, to see the world through the eyes of love, and to bring light to even the darkest places. In doing so, we find our true purpose, the true freedom we seek. The next morning, as the sun rose, the prince and Devi stood side by side. The weight of their sorrow had not vanished, but their hearts felt lighter. They now understood that they did not need to seek meaning in life, because meaning was something they could create with every breath they took. And in doing so, they found freedom. Freedom from the burden of unanswered questions, freedom from the chains of suffering. As they looked out at the world, a sense of peace enveloped them. The sun, rising over the horizon, symbolized a new beginning. They were no longer prisoners of their grief. They had discovered the power of compassion, and with it, the ability to live fully and meaningfully, no matter what life brought their way. Conclusion: the power of compassion. The Buddha's teachings remind us that life does not need to have a grand, overarching meaning. The purpose of life lies within us, in how we choose to live it. Through compassion, we create meaning in every moment, and in doing so, we are freed from the constraints of suffering. In the end, it is not the questions that define us, but the way we choose to live with love, kindness, and understanding. Life is short, fleeting, and often filled with hardship. But within this brief existence, we have the power to create something beautiful, something meaningful, simply by living with an open heart. Please remember, your journey is not about finding answers to every question, but about living with compassion, creating your own meaning, and sharing that love with the world around you.